The movie opens in 1991 with an 11-year-old girl named Allie Craig and her mother standing on a New York City subway platform. Just as Allie is dancing around and joking with her mom, two men hurriedly walk towards them. Allie's mom immediately senses that something's wrong and tries to board the train with her daughter. However, the thugs run towards them and point a gun straight towards them. Terrified, Allie's mom hands over her purse and belongings, desperately trying her best to save her daughter. The men rob her and board the train, but just as the train pulls away, one of the men unexpectedly pulls out his gun and shoots Allie's mother. Allie, horrified, screams in terror as she witnesses her mother's murder. She wails loudly, begging for her mom to wake up. Moments later, Sergeant Neil Craig, who's not only a police officer but also Allie's father, rushes to the scene. As he sees his wife's lifeless body before him, he breaks down and tightly embraces Allie. Heartbroken, he tries to comfort her, as they are both devastated by the loss. The scene shifts to 10 years later, where Tyler Hawkins, a brooding and emotionally distant young man, sits on the porch of his apartment. Just as he's smoking, he hears the phone ringing. He picks it up in a half-conscious state and assures the caller he'll be there in 15 minutes. He then quickly puts on a suit and runs out the door. Shortly after, Tyler arrives at a graveyard where his parents await him desperately. It turns out that Tyler's older brother, Michael, had taken his life a couple of years ago. Ever since then, Tyler hasn't been able to deal with his brother's sudden demise. So, now he lives in a very messy apartment, spending all his days smoking and drinking. Moving forward, Tyler greets his mom, Diane, and sister Caroline cheerfully. He asks them if they're handling Michael's absence well, and tries his best to be there for them. However, he completely ignores his father, Charles. It's evident that Tyler deeply resents his wealthy but work-obsessed father. He hates the fact that his father cares only about money and reputation. Additionally, he also feels that Michael's demise could have been prevented if only Charles had been more supportive. After spending some time in the cemetery, Tyler, Caroline, Charles, Diane, and her new husband Les visit a nearby cafe that Michael often frequents. There, Diane thanks everyone for getting together to honor Michael's memory. She then tries to lighten the mood by asking Caroline to tell Tyler all about her achievements at school. Tyler, who loves his sister immensely, listens intently to Caroline's excellence in art class and praises her talent. However, just as Caroline is talking about her upcoming art exhibit, Charles rudely interrupts her, asking for sugar in the middle of the conversation. As expected, Caroline stops talking and tries her hardest not to cry. Tyler is infuriated by this and yells at his dad for ruining a perfect moment. He accuses Charles of never treating his family well and angrily storms out of the place. Later, Tyler goes to a small diner near his apartment and starts writing in a tattered diary, which is a way for him to communicate with Michael. In the diary, Tyler shares how much he misses Michael and talks about how life is moving forward. Eventually, after venting for quite a while, Tyler goes to meet his friend, Aiden. Aiden, who's a carefree and nonchalant guy, tries to cheer Tyler up and suggests they start a business selling specialized hygiene kits to women after hookups and one-night stands. Tyler, however, doesn't really care about the business venture. He just wishes Aiden all the best with the idea and heads to his college class. In class, Tyler doesn't pay much attention and keeps zoning out. However, his interest is soon piqued by a short-haired girl who continues to argue with the professor regarding the recent attacks in America. Shortly after, Tyler picks Caroline up from school and suggests they hang out together for a hole. Caroline agrees, and so the two sit down in a park and start chatting about their lives. At one point, Caroline asks Tyler why their father never spends time with them. Tyler assures her that it's because Charles is busy, but Caroline, who's quite mature for her age, doesn't believe it. With a solemn face, she exclaims that she knows Charles only cares about their social status and family name. After dropping Caroline off, Tyler goes to his job at a local library. Aiden joins him soon after and laments that Tyler is constantly in a depressive mood and just not joyful to be around. So, to lift his spirits, Aiden drags him out for drinks. After some time, the two go to a club and immediately decide to get some drinks. At that moment, two girls from Miami approach them and start flirting with them. The four of them party all night and have a lot of fun. Eventually, the club closes down, so they decide to leave together. As they're walking, they come across a street brawl. Aiden continues flirting with the girls and tries to take them to a nearby hotel. However, Tyler, now incredibly frustrated and intoxicated, decides to get his anger out. He impulsively joins in on the fight and starts hitting one of the men repeatedly, unable to contain his own anger. Concerned, Aiden runs up to him and tries to pull him away, but the situation quickly spirals out of control. The girls try to intervene as well, but Tyler accidentally ends up hitting one of them. Moments later, the police arrive, including Allie's dad, Sergeant Neil Craig. Wanting to get a clear idea of the situation, he asks the two girls what happened. They explain that Tyler and Aiden just wanted to mediate the street fight, but ended up getting hurt instead. Neil just nods and asks his men to free Tyler and Aiden. He then starts arresting the actual culprits. However, Tyler interrupts him just then and tries to explain who the real troublemakers are. Neil ignores him and continues on with his work. Seeing this, a very angry Tyler yells at Neil for ignoring the main cause and even tries to attack him. As a result, Neil throws him and Aiden in jail as well. In jail, Aiden berates Tyler for his reckless behavior and asserts that this situation could get them kicked out of college. He screams out that they were supposed to have a fun night, but Tyler ends up ruining it all. Aiden continues complaining about being in jail, but Tyler just laughs off the whole ordeal. Eventually, the two are bailed out by Charles, much to Tyler's annoyance. Not wanting his father's assistance in anything, Tyler marches into Charles's office and insists on paying back the bail money himself. Whilst trying to control his rage, he tells his father that he doesn't need any help from a man who drove his son into taking his own life. With that, he storms out of the place and goes back to the diner. There, he starts writing in his diary and tries to calm down. Shortly after, Tyler picks Caroline up from school. As they're talking, Tyler notices a bunch of girls pointing at Caroline and laughing. Concerned, he asks Caroline about it, who explains that since she spaces out from time to time, the girls find her weird and even call her a freak. It's evident that she's being heavily bullied at school. On the other hand, Allie, who happens to be the same girl that Tyler was looking at in class, is now a 21-year-old student at New York University. At present, she lives with her father, who is still deeply affected by the traumatic loss of his wife. Because of this, he's overprotective of Allie and is determined to be around her 24/7. Needless to say, Allie is really annoyed by this and continues explaining to him that she doesn't need his assistance in every single thing. Unfortunately, Neil simply ignores her and, as usual, gets ready to drop her off to college. That very day, Aiden sees Neil dropping Allie off and immediately comes up with an evil idea. Wanting revenge, he asks Tyler to date Allie and then dump her to hurt her father. He begs Tyler to hook up with her and ghost her as payback. Tyler initially refuses, not wanting to involve Allie, but Aiden continues to pressure him. But after much insistence from Aiden, he agrees to just hang out with her and see where things lead. The next day, Tyler approaches Allie in their shared social policies class. He pretends to be conducting an experiment on women in their 20s and subtly tries to flirt with her. Allie is initially skeptical of him and doesn't answer much, but after talking for quite a while, she starts to trust him. She finally warms up to him and finds him quite charming. So when Tyler asks her out, she happily agrees. Later that day, Tyler calls Allie before their date to jokingly ask if she's going to stand him up. Allie laughs and tells him that she doesn't intend to do any such thing. She then hurriedly gets dressed and runs out of her house. Soon the two meet at an Indian restaurant where they connect over their quirky perspectives on life. Tyler is intrigued by Allie's habit of ordering dessert first and asks her if it's some sort of a political statement. In response, Allie replies that she is constantly wary of demise, and if something were to happen while she's eating, she could pass away peacefully, knowing that she got to have dessert during her last moments. Tyler doesn't know how to react to this, so he just laughs. It's evident that he's drawn to her unique outlook on life, which is actually rooted in her fear of sudden loss, stemming from her mother's murder. Moving forward, Tyler and Allie chat for quite a while before heading over to a local fair. There, Tyler wins her a stuffed panda. Eventually, the two get really close and like each other's company. As they're about to part, Tyler leans in to kiss Allie, but she hesitates to do so. That's when Tyler sarcastically remarks that she eats her dessert first for fear of choking, but won't kiss him before she drives off into the unknown. Hearing this, Allie impulsively kisses him and then gets quickly into a cab, driving away into the night. The next day, Tyler goes to Caroline's school to pick her up. He greets her cheerily and as usual, the two head to a nearby park to catch up with each other. There, Caroline tells Tyler that she has an art exhibit coming up soon and asks if he'd like to come. Tyler readily agrees and jokes that he'll even camp outside the exhibit a day before if necessary. Caroline laughs at this and thanks Tyler for being such a great brother. Shortly after, Tyler meets with Allie and brings her back to his apartment. There, the two joke around and have a lot of fun together. Tyler makes spaghetti for the two of them and urges Allie to take a look around. Allie happily does so, and that's when she comes across Michael's photo. She asks Tyler about it, but Tyler doesn't answer. Instead, he hands her a cake since she loves having dessert before. Allie is touched by this. and starts to really like him. After dinner, Tyler proceeds to wash the dishes. He sprays Allie with water in the process, which leads to a huge water fight. Tyler, now determined to win, drags Allie into the bathroom and douses her with water. In return, Allie turns on the shower, soaking them both. A couple of moments later, Tyler proceeds to change into some dry clothes. He offers Allie a sweatshirt as well, since she's completely wet, but she politely declines. Just as Tyler is changing into a new shirt, Allie notices a tattoo on his chest. Excited, she asks him about it. That's when Tyler reveals that the tattoo is dedicated to Michael. He explains that Michael had taken his own life on his 22nd birthday. He goes on to add that since Michael wasn't making any money as a musician, his father made him work at his company, which eventually drove Michael to end his own life. Upon hearing all this, Allie offers her condolences and tries to ask more about the situation. But at that moment, Aiden barges into Tyler's room and informs them that there's a party going on. He urges the two to join him and they reluctantly agree. Needless to say, both Tyler and Allie get incredibly wasted. Allie even ends up puking at Tyler's apartment with him holding her hair and trying his best to be there for her. Seeing this, Aiden just smirks to himself, assuming that Tyler now has Allie wrapped around his finger. Whilst vomiting, Allie requests Tyler to call her dad and inform him that she's not going to return back home. Tyler agrees and proceeds to whip her phone out. That's when he realizes that her phone is unusable. Before he can even ask her what to do, Allie passes out. In the meantime, Neil gets worried sick about Allie and calls all of his close friends and family to ask about her. Back at Tyler's apartment, a hungover Allie finally wakes up and realizes what had happened the night before. Whilst panicking, she gets dressed and runs out the door. When she finally gets home, she tries to explain to her dad that her phone shuts off so she can't reach him. But that's when she sees a bunch of her stuff before him. Now furious, she asks him why he rummaged through her room, to which Neil replies that he just wanted some information. As expected, the two get in a huge fight, which ends with Neil slapping Allie right across the face. After realizing what he just did, Neil tries to apologize to Allie, but she just screams at him and runs into her room. On the other hand, a very worried Tyler tells Aiden that Allie just ran out of their place and expresses his concern for her. He thinks that she got mad at him for getting her drunk and feels extremely guilty. Aiden, however, asks him to just relax and talk it out with her later. Tyler agrees, and so, the two return back to their apartment. Much to their surprise, they see Allie sitting in front of them, who hesitantly tells them about the altercation she just had with her dad. Tyler is surprised by this and offers to let her stay at the apartment for as long as she likes. Allie is really grateful for this and thanks him for all that he's done for her. The next morning, Allie wakes up to see Tyler cleaning up the apartment. She simply observes him quietly, and in the process, comes to realize her feelings for him. When Tyler finally notices Allie watching him, he timidly asks her if she's doing okay. Allie just nods, so Tyler gets closer to her and kisses her passionately. As a result, the two end up making love. They wrap themselves in each other's arms and spend the night just kissing and cuddling. The next morning, Tyler leaves a note for Allie, gets dressed, and heads to a nearby coffee shop, where he meets Janine, his father's assistant. They chat for a while before Janine casually bids him goodbye and walks out. Tyler then returns to writing in his diary, still keeping in touch with Michael in his own way. Later, Tyler returns to the apartment and finds Allie quietly sitting on the bed. Not wanting to keep anything from her, he explains that he often goes to the coffee shop because it was a favorite spot he used to visit with Michael. He also adds that it was also the last place he saw him. Whilst trying to contain his emotions, he asserts that he wanted to tell Michael about her, which is why he went there. Touched by his vulnerability, Allie tries to console him and opens up as well. She shares that her mother was shot 10 years ago and explains that her father isn't just a strict, overbearing parent. Rather, he's simply a protective father who fears losing her too. Soon after, Tyler's 22nd birthday arrives and all his loved ones come together for a special celebration. They wish him with excitement, and everyone has a great time. Allie and Diane cheer him on, while Aiden and Caroline dance together. During the festivities, a concerned Diane confides in Tyler that Charles doesn't plan on attending Caroline's art exhibit. She adds that this would just break the little girl's heart. Hearing this, Tyler promises to bring Charles along no matter what. A couple of hours later, Tyler calls his dad to ask if he plans on going to Caroline's art show. Charles replies that he does, and at that moment, he suddenly remembers it's Tyler's birthday. With a smug expression, he wishes his son a happy birthday and quickly hangs up. Afterward, Tyler and Allie bid Diane and Caroline goodbye. Just as they're about to leave, Allie asks Caroline if she can come to the exhibit too. Caroline happily agrees and thanks her for the support. With that, Allie and Tyler get a cab and drive away. The next day, Tyler, Allie, and Charles meet at a lavish restaurant. Once there, Tyler awkwardly introduces Allie to his dad and secretly hopes that the meeting goes well. Surprisingly, Allie and Charles end up having the same viewpoints and sense of humor. As a result, they get along quite well. Charles loves the fact that Allie is quite focused and has already thought about her future and career. He then mocks Tyler for not being as hardworking as Allie, and thus, the air gets really awkward. Eventually, Tyler ends up taunting his father for always going after money and having no sense of empathy whatsoever. After dinner, Tyler and Allie get ready to attend Caroline's art exhibit. Just then, Charles approaches Tyler and informs him that he's got an important meeting to attend. Tyler begs his dad to postpone it and to just focus on his daughter for once. However, Charles outright refuses. He then tries to mediate the situation by saying that he'll arrive at the exhibit as soon as possible. Tyler, however, sees right through him and storms out of the restaurant with Allie. At the exhibit, Tyler, Allie, and Diane do their best to cheer Caroline up, but the young girl remains silent. After a while, she suddenly declares that she's ready to leave and runs out. As expected, Tyler is infuriated at Charles for hurting Caroline. In a rage, he walks into his apartment and hurriedly grabs a bike. Allie begs him to stop and calm down, but he just ignores her. Tyler then goes straight to his father's office and barges into the meeting room. Once inside, he angrily confronts Charles, accusing him of being self-centered and uncaring. Sadly, Charles just doesn't seem to be bothered. He simply states that taking care of Caroline is enough and funding her life is enough. Hearing this, Tyler is further enraged. Without thinking, he tells his father that because of his behavior, all his other children are going to themselves as well. Charles is shocked by this and tries to attack Tyler. Thankfully, his colleagues stop him just then and drag him away. Similarly, Janine also drags a very emotional Tyler along with her and begs him to just calm down. Shortly after, Tyler returns back to the apartment and breaks down crying. Allie runs up to him and tries her best to console him. She softly kisses him, soothing his pain, and they end up spending the night together, wrapped in each other's arms. The next morning, Allie sends her dad a voice message, telling him that she's fine and will come back to him soon. Neil, who had been worried sick about his daughter's whereabouts, finally breathes a sigh of relief. In the meantime, Allie and Tyler spend every passing second together, growing closer and sharing several intimate moments. Over time, Tyler completely forgets about the revenge plan he had made with Aiden. He takes Allie to the beach, includes her in family trips, and involves her in all the significant moments of his life. One day, while Allie, Tyler, and Aiden are traveling on a train, one of Neil's co-workers spots them and immediately informs him. When Tyler finally reaches his apartment, he notices the door is wide open. Concerned, he grabs a baseball bat and cautiously enters the bedroom, only to find Neil sitting on his bed, rummaging through his belongings. Neil quickly notices Tyler and angrily demands to know where Allie is. He then asks if Allie knows about him arresting Tyler not long ago. Tyler replies that she doesn't and tries to assure Neil that his relationship with Allie has nothing to do with it. Neil, however, doesn't believe him and questions Tyler's true motives. At this point, Tyler reveals that he initially dated Allie because of a bet, adding that it doesn't matter if he ends up losing her. Enraged, Neil attacks Tyler and the two get into a massive physical altercation. He chokes Tyler to the point of suffocation, slams him into a wall, and then stumbles out of the apartment. An hour later, Allie, who has no idea about what just happened, excitedly returns to the apartment and starts telling Tyler all about her day. However, she quickly notices Tyler's silence and asks him what's wrong. Overcome with guilt, Tyler confesses everything, including the arrest and the bet. Upon learning the truth, Allie is devastated. Heartbroken, she slaps Tyler and starts packing her things. Tyler begs her to let him explain, insisting that he genuinely loves her, but Allie ignores him and storms out of the apartment. Aiden tries to console him, saying that she'll come back and it's good she found out, but Tyler isn't convinced. Hoping to cheer up his sister, Tyler takes Caroline to a friend's birthday party. Shy and anxious, Caroline exclaims that she isn't comfortable with going to the event. However, Tyler insists that she'll have fun and make more friends. As a result, Caroline stands by the door, fearful of her classmates who have always been unkind to her. It's evident that she's scared they'll bully her again. After a while of thinking, Caroline musters up all her courage and quietly walks over to her classmates. Sadly, a couple of hours later, a very distressed Caroline calls Diane, begging her to pick her up. Meanwhile, Aiden realizes that Tyler and Allie really love each other. Feeling guilty for breaking them up, he shows up at Neil's house and begs Allie to listen to him. With a solemn face, he tells her that he's the reason behind all this and also informs her that Tyler really loves her. In the end, he requests her to forgive him and move past this incident. Back at Diane's house, Caroline continues wailing, telling her mom that she doesn't want to go to school anymore. When Tyler learns about this, he runs to her and tries his best to cheer her up. Sadly, Caroline is traumatized by the incident and refuses to leave the house. Allie and Aiden rush to the house as well to check on Diane and Caroline. They assure Diane that they'll get to the bottom of this and punish those who are involved. When Tyler sees Allie standing in front of him, he feels relieved and apologizes to her for betraying her. He thanks her for being there for Caroline and promises to better himself for her. Allie, touched by his words, smiles and forgives him instantly. The next day, Tyler takes Caroline to school, assuring her that nobody will mess with her anymore. He walks her to class, making sure she's safe and comfortable. But at that moment, a girl mocks Caroline's hair and the whole class laughs. Tyler loses his temper and flips the girl around. He then trashes the classroom, ultimately throwing a fire extinguisher out the window. This outburst lands him in jail, but thankfully, Charles bails him out. This time, instead of berating Tyler, he vows to deal with the Gullies and promises that they will not get enrolled in any other school. Tyler is pleasantly surprised to hear this and thanks his dad for taking the necessary actions. Following these incidents, Tyler and Allie start getting close again. They hang out all the time and find themselves falling for each other even more. They pick Caroline up from school together and make sure she's safe and happy again. Slowly but surely, Tyler and his father's strained relationship begins to mend as well. Tyler sees his father making an effort like taking Caroline to school and even sharing family moments to show that he cares deeply. One day, Tyler informs Allie that he's going to his dad's office to talk to some lawyers. He bids Allie goodbye and kisses her passionately. On his way, he calls Charles to ask where he is. Charles replies that he's dropping Caroline off at school and asks him to wait a while. Tyler happily agrees and walks into his father's office room. There, he is touched to see family photos as his father's screensaver. Finally, he realizes that Charles may have loved him more than he'd shown. While Tyler's at the office, Allie and Aiden joke around, making breakfast as they go. Caroline goes to class, now a lot happier than before. Sadly, they were all unaware of what was to happen next. Moving forward, Tyler waits for his father to arrive at his office in the Twin Towers. The date on that day was September 11th, 2001. That morning, as Tyler waits in his father's office, he looks out of the window on the 92nd floor, unaware of the tragedy about to unfold. Slowly, the scene fades, with the sounds of massive airplanes engulfing everything. Sadly, Tyler became a victim of the attacks that destroyed the World Trade Center. Moments after the attack, Aiden and Allie run towards the World Trade Center, visibly panicking. Diane follows them as well, unsure of what just happened. When Charles finally reaches the office, he sees nothing but rubble. Deep down, he realizes that Tyler is gone. Meanwhile, Caroline runs out of school, sobbing and hoping that Tyler is safe. In the aftermath, those closest to Tyler are devastated. Caroline visits his grave, leaving stones as a tribute, while Allie, having finally gained the courage Tyler gave her, rides the subway, something she hadn't done since losing her mother. Charles finally understands the importance of family and treasures the memories of his son. Not just that, he also starts making efforts to be there for Caroline and encouraging her all the time. On the other hand, Aiden gets a tattoo in Tyler's memory and cherishes their memories together. Life moves forward for everyone, but Tyler's impact remains, shaping their lives and guiding them toward healing.